What's good, YouTube? So, today I'm going to be talking about my basketball story. And, I just feel like, just sharing this with you guys. But, so, let's bring it back all the way. Now, I've been playing basketball since I was like kindergarten. Like, I was playing basketball at school. I was, always playing at school, at recess, stuff like that. But I didn't really get like starting to play like for a team or anything like that until 4th grade. But I remember 3rd grade summer going into my 4th grade year, went to this basketball camp at THPRD, and I straight dominated at that camp. Like, it wasn't even funny. Mainly because I was the oldest one there, but because it was from 6 to 8-year-old camp. But what happened was, I turned 9 the day camp ended, and I was still allowed to go. But I dominated at that camp. It wasn't even fair. So I remember 4th grade. I was like, I want to play basketball. Like, I want to play for a team. And I remember, because my dad played basketball growing up. My dad loves basketball. And I remember, like, him telling me that, like, as I got older, he's like, I've always wanted you to play basketball, but I never really wanted to, like, pressure you into doing it or whatever, just because I want you to play or whatever. I want, let it be your decision or whatever, which I respect. But 4th grade, I made the decision I wanted to play basketball. So I go play for Tiger Rec. Like, I'll show y'all my jersey. Tiger Rec. Tens do it best. Tiger. I even got my own. That's my, I think, my 5th grade trading card. But so I go play for Tiger Basketball Association, Tiger Rec, and that year, let's say it didn't go the best. It didn't go well at all. We went, I think it was 2-10, and I was one of the worst players on the team, but best defensively, if that makes sense. Like, it was so bad that I didn't score at all in 12 games. I went scoreless. I was the only person on my team that didn't score a single point. And it was like, to the point, the last game I started, the direction was, because that year we didn't do well at all. So that game, it was, if we win, we win. But the direction, the objective of the game is give AJ the ball so we can score. Like I'm Kobe or something, but I wasn't scoring. I didn't score. So at like around the 2-minute mark in the 4th quarter, I got taken out the game. And I remember I broke down and cried because that was embarrassing. It was very embarrassing. Then 5th grade, I remember I go to Tryouts, and at that point I had a friend who, he wanted me to play with him, right? So he told his dad, like, hey, I want him, like, if I get the first pick or whatever in the draft, because they do a draft, I'm going to take him. Like, a lot of coaches, like, 5th grade rec year wanted me. But I remember, I had at that point wanted to play, it was called Tiger Competitive Basketball. And basic competitive is like, you get to travel, like, it's basically like AAU, but not really. Like, you don't travel out of state. You just travel to different places in state, like for different tournaments against different teams and stuff. And I remember in 5th grade, the competitive A-team coach had asked my dad, to be assistant so he could get me on the team. Now keep in mind, the year before in 4th grade, their team went 12-0. They blew every team out. Like, it wasn't even funny. So it was like, to me, it was kind of like an honor for him to even like want that to happen, because he wanted my dad to be assistant so I could be on his team, which was weird. Because usually if you have a parent as a coach, your kid gets to be on that team, no matter how bad they are. So, but I ended up just playing rec, because my dad was like, it doesn't really matter when you get to high school if you played rec or competitive or whatever. It's if you can really hoop. So 5th grade, I ended up playing. I go to tryouts, right? And, you know, in the middle of tryouts, I guess somebody said, hey, we need one more coach. And then I look over and I see my dad like talking to the people and like signing these papers to be a coach, right? And I'm like, oh, my dad's gonna coach me. Not like that's a bad thing, but it was like, oh, my dad's gonna coach me. That's cool. That's cool. And so my dad ended up coaching me that year. We had a pretty okay team, went 5-7. But, you know, thing that, like, I ended up scoring that season. I was one of the top leading rebounds. I was the second leading rebounder on our team, even though I was, I think, I wasn't one of the tallest players on the team. And I was, like, averaging 6 rebounds a game. And, or 6 or 7, I think it was. But then the next year, my dad decides not to coach 6th grade. So I played. Now, keep in mind, in 5th grade, I played with my best friend, Daniel. That dude, he was literally dropping 30 points. Like, he was pulling up from Curry range as a 4th and 5th grader. Like, he was pulling up. Like, this little dude had no fear at all. I was playing with him. I was playing with my other best friend. Both of them considered my brothers. My friend Armad. And Armad, he had some handles a little bit. And he was quick on his feet. He was a good defensive player because he played football. So, us three on the same team, I was like, oh, we're going to do magic. We went 5-7. Only 5-7. 6th grade, rec. I ended up trying out, right? And at this point, I didn't know who I was going to play with, like what team. But my friend Daniel, his dad ends up coaching. So his dad took me on the team. I started every single game. But I only played like, I think it was 8 or 9 games, I think. Because I missed some games because I got in some trouble. Which, that'll be another story time. But we ended up, we went, I think it was 9-3 that year. We tried to like scrimmage the competitive A team, B team, C team, or whatever. They didn't want to smoke with our team. Like, our team was that good. They didn't want it. We beat every single team in our entire rec league play. And then we also got to play Tualatin and Sherwood. We smacked Sherwood every single time we played them. Tualatin was kind of, because, yeah, Tualatin we didn't really do super well against, but we went 9-3 that year. But we had a good team that year. Like, we would have probably beat the A team, just like off the players we had. But 7th grade year, I remember I go to tryouts, right? And I remember I think it was, I go to Tryouts, and my dad wasn't gonna coach, but he told my friend Daniel's dad, like, hey, if you pick my son up, I won't coach. Like if you just pick my son up, like, I'll sign as assistant coach so you can get my son. I won't even coach because I feel comfortable with you coaching me. And then he tried to be on some BS. And, I don't know, because he tried to get, like, this other dude who was clearly not better than me. This dude named Evan. This dude sucked. Like, it's not even funny, bro. And he tried to make up all these excuses and shit. Like, oh, Evan. And my dad's like, you'll be able to get Evan in the last round, like, if you really want it. And my dad ended up just signing up the coach after all that. So I think we played them the second game of the season. I took it personal. Now keep in mind, this year, because there wasn't like a whole bunch of coaches, they ended up doing 7th. And this is first year they started doing split grade teams for boys. Because it used to be only that way for girls. So it would be 3rd and 4th grade girls, 5th and 6th grade girls, 7th and 8th grade girls, 9th and 10th girls, 11th and 12th. But after this year, this was the first year they started doing it for the boys side. So I was on a team with 8th graders. Majority of the players on the team were 8th graders. And I ended up winning, like that season, I ended up being voted team MVP. Because I averaged like 7, 8, and 6 or something. It was something like that. I was near triple-double threat every single time I stepped on the court. But as I was saying, we played them the second game of the season, right? I took that shit personal. Usually before the game, I'd dap them up, say good luck, that type thing. Like, I do that to opponent. Like, if I'm cool with them. That game, I took that shit personal. Now, I don't know why. I ended up coming off the bench because my dad was one of those coaches, like, he was hella fair. Like, he let everybody have a chance to start. In that game, I didn't end up starting, which really pissed me off. And I was like, Dad, why am I not starting? You know I'm taking this game personal. He was like, it's alright. You'll be in the game in literally 20 seconds. I subbed in literally 20 seconds after the game started. I subbed in like hella quick. That game, now it might not seem like a lot to y'all, but because I focused on defense first, I had I think of 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists or something like that. Now, my dad thought, now keep in mind, they're up most of the game, and it is, I think the score was 34-37, right? I see that, and my dad thought, they were, beating us really bad. So, last second, I demand the ball, and then I pull up for 3, got fouled. I keep in mind, I did get flopped a little bit, but the dude did have his hand on me like this. He had his hand right here, so I flopped up just a little bit. Foul call. They called foul. Now, I've never really heard of this. You never really hear about this in a basketball game, but I ended up getting to shoot 3 free throws. Now, keep in mind, there's no time left on the clock, so I'm the only one at the free throw line. Nobody's, trying to rebound or whatever. First one hit, and it felt like it was coming off at first. Second one, oh, that's going in. I missed it. I missed the free throw. Ooh. And at that point, I could have just said, F it and just missed the last free throw, but made the second one. Started breaking down crying. Because I want to prove to him, I want to prove to my best friend's dad that he should have not, he's going to regret not having me on his team. And I started crying, and my dad's like, he's like, if I remember correctly, he's like, you better stop that crying. I dabbed him up, and his dad was like, wow, you went off, like damn. Then, yeah, then, the season goes on. We ended up going like 5-6, I think it was, because one game got canceled. Junior year, I ended up not playing winter season because I wasn't doing well in school or whatever. So I ended up playing spring season, teach PRT. And that league, that time it was competitive. Like, it was super competitive. Most of those dudes went on to play high school varsity. Like, it was super competitive league. I knew a bunch of the people in the league, super competitive. Like, even one time, one dude I went to school with dropped 40. Like, he dropped 40 in one of those games. Like an efficient 40. And I remember watching it like, what the fuck? Like, what? I was like, I knew he's nice, but I mean, keep in mind, that team had literally tried to stack their team as much as possible. Like, most of those dudes ended up being on the freshman team or whatever. Now, me, I don't really care about all that. But compare this, like, this is rec league, and mostly dudes play for your competitive, play AU basketball, whatever. Like, it just seemed, at that time, it was like, okay, for other people it seemed unfair. Me, I take that as a challenge. I don't care. I'm going at you. I'm going at you no matter what. Freshman year, I ended up going to Newburgh High School because my dad was working there. Freshman year, I didn't try out because, one, I didn't have the grades. I had, first semester freshman year, I had a 0.7124 GPA. Not good at all. And I was getting in trouble. Second semester freshman year, I did good. I had near 3.0 GPA. Got it up, started focusing. And then sophomore year, I'm thinking I'm on good, right? And I started going to their open gyms. And I started going to their weightlifting workouts, or whatever it was called. It was like weightlifting and cardio workouts. They had it was conditioning workouts. They had at, I think it was like 6 a.m. before school every single day or something like that. I'm going to those. Now, tryout time comes, and I'm going off at tryouts. I'm dropping dimes, playing great defense, grabbing rebounds. I'm doing everything a coach could ask for, being a good teammate, clapping it up for people, like that type thing, trying to get people, trying to like bring up people, whatever, if they made a bad play, like stuff like that. First day goes. Then the next day goes, right? I go to tryouts. And I'm waiting on the sideline, right? And at this point, I'm like with most of the varsity level players. Because they kind of split it up into groups, like players who they think would make varsity, players who they think would make JV. Now, I'm a sophomore, and they had me with like the varsity players and stuff, right? And the basketball coach does this, and I'm like, okay. And I guess he had done that to a group of other players, and so when I seen a group of other players, I'm thinking, like, okay, what's going on? These players aren't that good, so why am I with this group of players? He took me to the locker room, or he took us, the group of players, to the locker room and said, I'm sorry, but you guys have got cut from the basketball team. And I remember, because I went to tryouts with just a jersey on, because we didn't have any school that day, so I went with just a jersey, my shorts. I think a jacket. And I remember having to turn in my jersey right then and there. And that was embarrassing. So I walk out the locker room. One of my other best friends / brother, who was the best basketball player on the varsity team, he was a star player on the varsity team, Taylor Howard. And he's like, "What's wrong? Why don't you have your jersey on?" He's like, and I'm like, "Man, they cut me." And he's like, "Are you serious?" He told one of the other players who was hurt, that was a star football player at the school, but he also played basketball. He told him, and they're like, "What? How'd they cut you from the basketball team? Like, you're good enough to at least make JV. Like, you were like doing hella well against the varsity players." And it hurt me. Then fast forward to May of my sophomore year. I'm at Tigard High School. Not really by choice, but I'll get into that a little later in another story time. And so I see that they're having summer league tryouts, right? So I go out to try out. And, not gonna lie, I wasn't really trying that hard. But I was still, like, doing super good against the varsity players. And keep in mind, the head basketball coach already knew who I was because of an incident that happened back in 6th grade, which will be another story time. So stay tuned if y'all want to watch that. Explains a lot. But you already knew, like, basically said I already had a bad rep with this basketball coach too. And pretty much I go to tryouts, I'm doing hella well, and the next day he posted the like the rosters of the JV2 team, JV, varsity, summer league team. I wasn't really like, I straight up looked at varsity. No, I don't see my name. JV, I don't see my name. And then I had people coming up to me in the hallways like, "Why is your name not at least on the JV team roster for summer league?" And I'm like, I have no fucking clue. And so, yeah, I was a little bit down about that. And I remember one time I seen the varsity teams. No, I remember one time I was in class with the basketball coach, and while we had because it was basketball class, it was basically you get a grade for just going and just shooting around, like literally easy A. And I remember I seen his star player, right? Like just shooting around. So I called him out. Like, keep in mind, I'm not, like, his star player is really, really good. He's 6'4", 6'5", sharpshooter. Like, he's really good. Like, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for his game. But I still called him out because, I wanted to at least prove myself. I felt like I had something to prove because meanwhile, people probably think I suck in all this. I said, all right, because I had the ball. I was like, "Stevie, come here." He's like, "What's up?" And I said, "All right, time to check up. We're playing right now, 1-on-1, 21, 2s and 3s. Now, I'm not going to cap. He beat me 1-on-1, but it was a hard-fought game. It was, if I remember correctly, it was 21-19. 21-19 against their best player, Tigard's best player in the program, who ended up playing, who's at IA giving buckets right now. But here I am, just this black kid that didn't make the Tigers basketball team, and didn't even make JV. So I suck, but I'm still competing with your best player. And keep in mind, the basketball coach is watching his one-on-one game at this point. He's watching it. And I see the look on his face like, oh, I might have made a mistake. Now, I'm not saying I would have been better than him or even the second or third best player in the program, but I was still competing with him. And I didn't get a place in the program at all. Fast forward to, next school year, my junior year. I'm still at Tiger, and I ended up, I was only at Tiger for about 2 months, my junior year. And I remember the basketball coach comes up to me and says, "Hey, AJ, can you talk to me after school?" And I'm like, or it wasn't like after school. He's like, "Can you talk to me like at lunchtime or something when you have a chance?" And I go to talk to him, and he says, "AJ, I was wondering if you'd like to be on our fall league team." I'm like, fall league JV? What are you talking about? He said, "No, I want you to be on the fall league varsity team, so you can be able to get some reps with the varsity team." What? So you're telling me you're asking me to be on your summer league varsity team or your fall league varsity team, so I could get reps with the varsity team, get like, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Get like chemistry with the players and everything, but you cut me from your JV summer league team? Didn't make sense to me at all. So I told him straight up to his face, I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna have to decline your offer." And I was like, because at that point, I already knew, like, me and my parents, like, me and my family, we were going to move. And I said, if I'm even at the school in November, I won't even try out for the basketball team. I'll just play rec instead. Like, dead ass. I'll just play rec instead. And I said, I don't mean it. I'm sorry if that comes off as disrespectful, but, yeah. But I just left his office. I didn't say bye or anything. Now, flash forward to November of my junior year. I'm at Hillsborough High School. I'm going to the open gyms. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying I was busting ass at these open gyms or whatever, but I was easily a varsity level player, maybe even a starter. And I remember I asked one of the assistant coaches, who was the head coach on the JV team, and he already knew who I was, because I remember when he seen me, like when he first seen me, because he was a security guard at the school, he was like, "I feel like I've seen you before." And I'm like, "Where from?" He's like, "Oh, I used to referee basketball games." And I'm like, "Oh, I used to play in this league called THPRD." And he's like, "That's where I remember you from, because you were a really good player. Like, one of the best players in that league, by far." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, I appreciate that." So I go, and I remember I asked him one day, I was like, "Hey, what are some things, like, you think I could work on?" Like, just trying to get knowledge or whatever. And he was like, "Honestly, I'd probably say your shot," which I could agree. My shot, especially then, could have used a lot of work. But he's like, "Honestly, you're probably one of the best defenders in the program. So if the varsity coach is not really looking at you like that, I'll pick you up on JV and at least start you so you can have a chance at swinging." I'm like, "Okay." Go to tryouts, right? First day goes well, and I guess the second day they put us in groups. I wasn't with the varsity group. I was with the JV kids. So that kind of pissed me off a little bit. And I remember all these players got to go to the other side. And I remember they had a talk with us. He said, I spoke to the varsity coach, and he said there could be one more spot. Now keep in mind, this is for the last spot on the JV team. The last spot. And that year they ended up having, I think it was 15 players on JV. And he was like, "Y'all can play one-on-one for one shot or whatever." And I remember at that point it got personal. One shot. So I remember I hit my first shot. Somebody was on defense. I missed it. Then that person scored on that person. Like the next person I was up. And then I locked him up. Then had the ball, missed the shot. Then he made the shot against the next person that was up. And then I was on defense and he made his shot. So he ended up making a team. And he even told me afterwards, like, bro, I don't see why you're not even on varsity or whatever. But keep it real, some of the varsity players still were hating, like, trash talking. And I called all of them out. I was like, we can play one-on-one. And if you lose to a player that even make the JV team, that's on you. That looks bad for you. But they didn't want to play me though. So junior year I ended up playing for this team at the Beaverton Hoop called Hoop Elite JV. Played in a league with an AU program who ended up playing with active PCH, who had, it was mostly the senior team and a couple players that were out of high school in a high school league, but we don't talk about that. And I remember we ended up, like, that team was stacked. Like, they ended up winning every single game. Our team was pretty okay, but I ended up playing with them. And then I ended up, after the season, I ended up pulling a Kevin Durant. I ended up playing with active PCH. Now, keep in mind, it's junior year. And I got put on 16U with a bunch of kids from Albany, Oregon. Now, keep in mind, I live in Beaverton/Portland, Oregon. They lived in Albany, Oregon, which is almost in the middle of nowhere. It's like near Corvallis, where Oregon State is. And I remember, I was a sixth man, and I was like, why am I the sixth man when I'm the best player on the team? And I was competing with the 17U players that had offers to multiple colleges. But I'm the sixth man on the 16U team. It doesn't make sense at all. Like, even a lot of the 17U players said I should have been at least a starter on 16U, 17U. And I remember that year I was invited to play 17s for the first time in Orlando. Couldn't make it, but basically where they played at was where the NBA bubble was at for the end of the last season. And then, but I couldn't make it. I ended up going to Vegas for my cousin's graduation. Then I remember I ended up getting invited because some of the players didn't get invited or whatever to go on an LA Vegas trip where they drove down there, stayed in a hotel, that type thing. Was gone for 2 weeks. I didn't get to go to LA because I got in trouble. And then I remember I ended up getting invited on that trip because there was 2 17U teams. There was the main 17U team, and they picked up some players. And there was another 17U team. I got put on the other 17U team, which basically was combined with players from the 15U, 17, 16U, and some from the 17U team, the main 17U team. And I remember going into it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the sixth man or whatever. No, I ended up getting put dead last on the bench. And didn't get that much playing time or whatever. And I remember I played one of the coaches and said, oh, if I win, I played him one-on-one because I was getting mad. I said, if I win, you have to start me for the rest of the tournament. He said, deal. We shook hands and everything, like men. That didn't happen. I beat him pretty bad, too. It was like 21-8 or something like that. And that didn't end up happening. He didn't keep up his part of the deal. So I remember I think it was our last game of the tournament or whatever. We ended up going to get food as a team because then we had to go watch the other 17U team play not by choice. We had to. It was mandatory. And I remember one time he didn't have like money for food, right? And he's like, man, can you pay? Like, he didn't have money for food. He was waiting for like MoneyGram or whatever to come in. And I remember he's like, AJ, could you please pay for my food? I'll pay you back literally tonight. I said, no, I don't have my money. Keep in mind, I had tucked my money. I had money on me. I had a lot of money on that trip. I had the money tucked it in my sock. So if he asked me like, oh, show me your pocket, he would see my money or whatever. Just because I didn't want to pay for it. Because I was really mad at the whole fact, like, we should have went, like, that trip should have went very differently. We went 0-4, but a couple of those games could have been different. Like, honestly. So, after then, senior year, instead of playing, like, fall league basketball with the AU team or whatever, I ended up playing football for a little bit. Can't see the jersey, but go Beavs. Then, senior year, but I ended up getting kicked off the football team, which I will explain in another story time. And so I kind of already had like a bad reputation or whatever. In senior year, I go to tryouts. First day, I go, I'm with the varsity team. But beforehand, the varsity coach already told me that he was going to have me in the back gym with the JV players, just so all the coaches can get a good look at me, and so I could get reps in. With the players I would be swinging up or whatever. So first day I'm with the varsity players, getting some reps, playing good defense on the best players. And then the next day I couldn't go because next day I went to Tryouts and I couldn't participate because I guess I didn't have all my football gear turned in or something, so I couldn't participate. Then that next day, which was a Wednesday, I ended up kind of like, I was like, I'm trying out regardless of what they say. If they say something about my gear or not, I'm trying out anyway. So that Wednesday, I ended up I was in the back gym with the JV team, but I was like killing. And I was playing good defense, doing my thing, doing what I have to. And I was easily the best player in the back gym. Like, better than the players that were swinging up to varsity or whatever. And I remember after tryouts, that day, they told which players made the team, which players didn't. And I remember the coaches told me, like, oh, Vansel said he'll talk to you tomorrow, because I guess he has some stuff to figure out. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? So I go talk to him. I go to his office first thing in the morning before school, and he was like, could you talk to me after school? I still have to figure some stuff out. And I was like, okay. Go to him, talk to him after school. And he was like, I'm sorry, but, you're honestly good enough to make over 90% of the schools in the state, but honestly, because, like, of locker room issues, I don't know if you'll be good in a locker room or whatever. I'm gonna have to cut you. So that hurt. Oh, another part of the story I forgot to leave out. That weekend before tryouts, I ended up going to Max Hoops college exposure camp. Alright? And, I'm doing my thing. And I didn't end up making an all-star game, but I ended up with a couple schools wanting me. It was Lynn Community College in Albany. I had Lane Community College. And then I had, like, interest from Multnomah. Like, the coach kind of like the coach liked me from Multnomah. And I remember, like, not making the All-Star game. And I was confused because I was like, I did not make the All-Star game, but these schools want me. But, okay. Flash forward to senior year AU. I ended up trying out for a team called Deep 3. No, I ended up trying out for a team called Team Push. I didn't make it because of payment issues. But I was cool enough, like, with the person who ran that program. He was like, oh, I'll talk to some other AU teams, such as Team Fly, D3. Then I ended up trying out for D3 and Active PCH, who I played for the year before. But the coach for Active PCH is acting kind of weird. So I go to PCH tryouts, didn't make any of the 17U teams, which there was 2 17U teams that year. Didn't make any of them. You know, a lot of the players said, like, oh, you should have made it, this or that. And I'm like, oh, whatever, like, tripping. Then I ended up trying out for D3, made the team. I would have been on their best team with multiple college players or college level players, like, getting offers and stuff, and made them. But then we had a problem about payment issue because they said, oh, we want, I think it was $750 by the first practice, which was in 3 days. So I was like, no. And I was like, let me try to find something. And ended up finding a team called Team Jones, which I didn't end up having to pay for. Played with them for a couple games, like their spring league games, and then I played in a tournament with them, but I didn't have to pay. But I liked playing with Team Jones. I met a lot of people. I met a friend who I'm still friends with now, but yeah. And then now at this point it's close to the end of my senior year, and the assistant coach from Lynn was texting me saying, hey, if you come down to Albany and sign these papers, you could come play with us next year. Now, the only problem with that was I don't drive. I didn't drive then, and I still don't drive now. But I remember I was like, shoot. Then I couldn't go to Lane because the head coach ended up going to a D1 school, Idaho State University. Well, that offer was lost, and then Multnomah wasn't really, I was never fully offered or whatever. It was just like interest. And I remember, so I ended up just going to PCC. I was going to go as a student in tryouts on the basketball team. Now, I go to PCC's basketball tryouts. I'm doing pretty decent. But the only problem was I wasn't enrolled in enough classes. So the day, like, before the teams got made or whatever, before we had our last scrimmage, he's like, AJ, why aren't you in a lot of classes? Like, why is this your only class? And I'm like, I've been trying to get in enough classes, but I can't. And he's like, well, try to do something by tomorrow or you won't make the team because you'll be ineligible to play. So I wasn't able to get enough classes. So I wasn't able to play. So I just didn't go to school. Flash forward to 2021, 2020 to 2021. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for school. I was thinking about going to PCC, trying out again, but their season is postponed at the moment. I don't think they're going to have a season due to COVID. And so I started texting Multnomah University's coach, asking like, hey, can I come play for y'all? He's like, yeah, you could come play with us. Just go fill out the paperwork and there'll be a $8,000 basketball scholarship available for you. And I'm like, okay, bet. So, you know, I'm doing everything I can. I did the paperwork and everything, but haven't like been kind of putting some of it off, like to fully get registered into the school or whatever. Then one day I got a text from the coach saying, I'm sorry, agent, but there's no more scholarships available for you, like, to come play with us next year. He's like, you could come and try out as a walk-on, like come to the school and try out as a walk-on, but there's no guarantee you'll make the team. And then he was like, also, you could get a scholarship for being a team manager, but there's no guarantee of you like playing for the team or whatever. And it just hurt me. It still hurts. But right now I'm just on the grind to prove all these people wrong, man. A lot of people have been talking down on me ever since I was younger, saying you'll never do this, play college basketball or whatever. And I'm just trying to prove people wrong. So I'm just on a journey to play college basketball. I'm not trying to play pro or anything, even though I do have a pro trial coming up. But you know, to be completely realistic, I'm not gonna make the pro team. I'm not. It's just to get, you know, like to get some content, you know, for my channel, and you know, try to grow from this. But yeah, that's my basketball story so far, and stay tuned for more. But thank y'all for tuning in and watching the video. Y'all have a nice day.